Like many of the dairy and farming businesses that make up our industry, United Dairies in Minnesota, part of the Pace Group, has grown and scaled from the family dairy farm and custom harvesting business Steven Landwehr recalls from his youth to the multi-partner, multi-site enterprise he leads as CEO today. Well, I had the chance to sit down with Steven at Central Plains Dairy Expo for a conversation with this high-level yet truly humble leader who shares his personal journey, as well as the passion that drives him, his dedication to growing people. We talk accountability, decision-making, and the tiered approach to transformational leadership that is the engine that drives the success of this operation today, here on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Milc Group. Milc Group is a dairy software company that brings real-time actionable data to dairy farms around the world. They are dedicated to revolutionizing the dairy industry with their user-friendly cloud-based software. One by Milc Group is the all-in-one app that brings together all important aspects of your dairy in one place. With products such as feed and animal management software, people training, dairy facility monitoring, and scale management, Milc Group is committed to providing producers with the tools they need to succeed.
Steven, how did you get started in the dairy business?
So obviously I'm one of the people that grew up on a dairy, and it's kind of was already in our blood, is in the generations before. So a little bit has already been imprinted in the DNA, I'll call it. So the understanding of animals, in order for the land, everything else that has come with it and have to take care of. And so I feel like a lot of that foundational stuff has already just existed in who we are and the lifestyles that we were born and raised into. As I grew older, we always were a little bit of a custom harvesting business, custom do this and that for a lot of people to create more income and support the dairy that we had, and then also grow that business as well too. So when I look back at how my dad and my uncle had to interact with the whole community, they didn't just do business for themselves and like, here's my lane and, everybody else is here. And no, they were part of the community, going and chopping in, I don't even know, 60 to 100 silos and all that. And then as myself, I got to be part of that process. So I got to go with, whether it was unhooking boxes, pulling hitch pins, just doing like that. And then eventually, going into the silo and actually help unloading things. It's like you just start to become part of that whole process. And then when you look back, it's like you think of how much people interaction had to be done. Our season's only so long, and you think of that many silos and how many days you have and how many people you have to work. It's like, all right, how did that coordination really happen?
Yeah, no kidding.
It's not really like it's just everybody's on a checklist. It's like, no, you have to be fluid with
and there was no WhatsApp.
No, there's no WhatsApp. There's no cell phone.
Not at that time. Wow.
And then the way, I'd say you learn a lot of how the older generation interacted. There's farms that really didn't like other big farms and all that stuff. But then we were also there to support them to make their farm efficient because they couldn't afford the tools or they didn't want to invest in those tools. And our business and our family always was willing to step up and do that work and, leave our home to go help other people.
Right. So were you the big farm back then?
We'll say yes. I mean, we were one of the first parlor barns built in Minnesota. So that was it was in the 60s. My grandpa built it and everybody was mad at him. And, because, he had a vision for himself, but people don't accept that. And with him growing to what he needed to do for his family and support, which would be all my aunts and uncles at that time, like he made the self-conscious, decision. No, we're going to do this. We're going to pave the way and go forward. And, that farm helped support that family for almost 40 years. It stayed operating that way, and it just continually grew and helped build the foundation for what my dad started building for us.
Wow.
So being a part of that was, when you look back, it's like, oh, wow. It's like you don't piece any of that together until you get older. and
Right.
and see how impactful it was.
And then you see the full picture.
Yeah.
So your grandfather was a man of vision, huh?
Yeah. So he was always, you hear a lot of these grandpas, they participate in everything. Like they're part of the co-ops. They're part of, they never stopped. Like they wanted to make sure their voice was heard. They got to be part of whatever affected them personally. Like they didn't just let other people, take that and use that as like, no, somebody else has the same mindset. They're going to take care of me. It's like, no, he always like, I'm going to be part of this. It's what I kind of learned over the time. It's like how much of a difference that probably made for us to see as we grew up and get older, and for my parents and down to myself, and kind of what I have to do, or I don't have to do, but what I'm more likely going to be doing for my children as they grow up. So
yeah. So your grandfather was a man of vision and a voice, and a bold visionary and a bold voice,
yes.
Especially at a time, like you said, the 1960s.
Yeah.
And as you said too, Steven, how interesting it is when you look at how that's set up for what you're able to do today as a dairyman and as a businessman.
As we continue to grow, the opportunity can keep presenting itself. You add people, the people make the growth, then they create more opportunity. It keeps compounding, and eventually you're a small piece of that pie instead of being you're involving so many people. So you don't have to be the single person or the single voice of things anymore. But
yeah. So when you talk about a lot of people within, maybe take a minute and just explain a little bit about the structure of the business.
Okay.
And also how many people are involved. So
basically, once our farm started growing, I started managing a smaller group, which today it was big. Back then it seemed really big to me, 16, 17 people managing, and, more of just an operational manager type of role. And at that time we had kind of the 6 founding fathers, we'll call, of our organization that started and pulled their first money and took their risk. A lot of them all had their own successful businesses, but looked at as this is like their next opportunity, that let's put a little bit in, see what happens. They weren't scared if it was going to fail. It was just an opportunity that the marketplace gave, at a time of a lot of stress in the early 2000s where their prices weren't high, but things assets you bought that were distressed, they're so low that there wasn't a lot of risk. Even if it failed, it really wouldn't change much value from what it was.
So this was your dad's generation that drove.
So the first generation of our business.
Okay.
So we'll call as the companies kind of first started forming. So kind of going from the family model to multiple family partners coming together.
Ooh, so that was a big milestone.
Yes, very big.
Yeah.
So we did have some one other non-family member before that, and some of those founding partners also had some older children that were also entertaining to join in, and some of them did transition in as the older ones left. I'd say the 5 to 10 years after, some of those individuals wanted to start and do their own businesses outside of our own because their families were growing and they found opportunity just in their own neighborhoods. And so they also wanted to exit being in our business that we started. 2 of them were more voluntary, 1 involuntary, that I had to struggle with to spend a lot of years of my life. Just he wasn't aligned with any of the partners for many years, and so I ended up being the person, as I got put in charge, that I knew for our company, and like I said, the people side, I'm like, if he's not aligned on this stuff, I'm like, we can't let people just dragging us back and not letting us grow, and also kind of being the bad apple that's holding us back from all the decisions we want to make to go forward. So that was an interesting time in my life where I had to spend a lot of extra effort to have that individual forced out of the business, and then also at the same time growing our business at the same time, and having those 2 things working against you.
Oh, so as you stepped up into really even higher levels of leadership and management. You were in your 20s or 30s at that point?
So yeah, when I first started, I was right out of college. So I was 21.
And you went right into managing people?
Within 4 to 6 months, I did.
Okay.
So we had a manager that was on site that was hired when the partnership first got formed. He was a cattle guy. I truly, to heart, I'm not a super cattle guy. I love cattle, but I'm not the show cow type of person or things like that. I look at it as I'm very mathematical. And then on the people side, I had one of the partners who took more of the lead to mold and grow me as an individual. And, and today he's still probably one of my biggest persons that I always look back to it, and took me more to the transformational side of leadership. So,
wow. So that's a powerful person in your life. So who was that?
So Craig Ocken, he was my first non-family, basically, person that managed me and started things off. And I think a lot of things, I think back to simple things that, how do you just get from today to tomorrow? And making decisions. It sounds so easy, but sometimes people make very difficult things out of it. It's like, if nobody's around, what are you going to do? It's like, make a decision, own it, just recognize that it might not have been the right decision, but you're going to learn either way after the fact. The important thing is you learn that you have to make decisions.
And that's one of the things that Craig taught you.
Yes. It worked really great for a long time. Now it's, as the business kept getting bigger and bigger and you're working with multiple sites, all that, a little bit, I don't have to make the decisions, but I have to make sure I encourage people that they can make the decisions now.
Wow. So you're now teaching that skill or empowering.
Yes, empowering that skill.
So I want to go back to, you're talking about Craig, and you said that his leadership and mentorship really transformed you. Was transformative was the word you used.
Yeah.
How did it change you?
Even just major problems disaster problems, things like that. It's like when something arises, you're so much more actionable when you have that mindset. Just, there could be so much chaos going on. Like, we've had wildfires, we've had it's like fires, for example, or you get really cold weather snaps and everything just is freezing up and this and that. You really jump the gun and just get going. It's like, grab people. How are you going to do this? How are we going to do that? And I feel it when you get in your worst moments, you can look back at that and it's like, we can get through this. So you find things more as a challenge, not look at the situation, how it's breaking you. It's how is it building you up a little bit more.
Ooh, so you look back on that, but then you also see how taking action helped you keep moving forward. And that's something that I've been hearing from you too, Steven, is like, you want to keep moving, like keep progressing. Has that always been your nature too?
That's probably the evil, and like, it's like, how do you tell yourself to stop? And, some of that's, it's not in your nature, but it's like, you got to know your limits though, and, I've always been encouraged even more just of lately. I do a CEO leadership group that there's a few of us that, we connect multiple times of the year and get together and go through a lot of things. And I think that was a very interesting topic, is we have our limits that we can do for our business. And then we also have our personal side. Now we're kind of building into, like, you have your spiritual, your emotional side. It's like, there's a lot of those things where we're not giving ourselves enough time to sit back and make sure we keep balance in all those things. And so our limits need to make sure that we keep other things in balance at the same time. So your brain isn't living in just one aspect of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
It's all great that our business goals get here, but we can't make sure we don't sacrifice those other things at the same time.
So is that kind of the stage you're at right now? Is this, I personally hate the word balance. Like, it's such a tough word, but you use the word limits. And I'm going to point out the contradiction of, like, how your mindset is growth and your nature is growth and to keep going. So what is it hard for you to think about limits? Or have you learned to embrace that as you step up to different types of responsibility in the business?
Yeah, so I think that's the point from my perspective is I have to limit myself in certain situations so I can help develop and grow others into those roles or just have them being a better leader. So if I can limit, and maybe limit isn't the best word, but using limit as the word is, it kind of sets my tone to know I need to build others up to help offset whatever I have going on right now. So
yeah, and people are so important to you that
Yes.
like that's where you can decide I need to stop here because your why, your drive
Yes.
is your people. And so how do you describe what you do every day now?
I really have to focus on the business now and a little less in the business side of things. I know people use them buzzwords quite a bit. And so I have to really step back and make sure what decisions we're making, what opportunities we have. You know, in the dairy business lately, we couldn't do nothing. Everybody was capped. And then the industry tells us now it's all open, just do whatever you want. But we also know now there's going to be a cap real quick. So I have to make sure we're very strategic on what decisions we're making so we can capture on opportunities when they're presented and make sure we're setting ourselves up that people are ready, you know, financially we're ready. Our team is not already currently having hiccups that are going to hold us back just from them purposes. You know, maybe our business is being successful, but there might be some limitations within when little hiccups that we might be having just on some other sites or issues that might arrive. Getting off topic there a little bit, but
No. So what is is it CEO? Is that what your official title?
yeah. So because we're a partnership, so managing partner, CEO,
Yeah.
so we use them as one and the other. I'm the fearless leader. You know, a lot of them will tell me it's like, you got to be the fearless leader. And it's like, you got to embrace that side of things when you're working with your team. But at the same time, I never think of myself as being the person that's running the business. I'm like, it is everybody. When I have individuals in certain roles, I'm like, I just got to keep thinking. One of my strengths is individualization. So I love just going to pick out people, figuring out what it is. Sometimes they might not know about themselves or what they can push and do. And those are like individual challenges I love about working with people is we all have our faults. We all have things that don't work, but I want to make sure I see you for you and maximize what are those abilities you have. And I can push you, you know, beyond your limits that you have.
That's where you thrive, isn't it?
Yes.
And you know, I had interviewed one of your site managers, Dustin, a few months back, and we talked about. You just mentioned strengths. Him and I talked about using the Strengths Finder, how he had done it for himself, and implementing it with the team. And
I feel like it's a nonstop project. It'll be a project that never ends. Is the way we develop and grow and build people and make sure they understand who they are and how they play a role and how important they are for our business.
Yeah.
And not even a business. It's, you know, we try to work on individuals, be like, you got to take this home and, you know, how are you important to the community, your own family? Make sure they understand, you know, the importance of not only their job, but who they are as a person.
And that plays into your individualism strength of being able to see that and want to draw it out. And so, so what are your top 5 strengths? What are your 4 others? Do you remember?
So woo is an easy one. So
yes, that you are a woo.
Yeah.
And the woo is the winning others over?
Yes, pretty much. And I'm one of them people, like when somebody walks by, I don't know who you are. I'm like, why do you exist? What do you do? What are you part of? Even my children, as they're younger and first start school. So I have 7 children, and the number one thing when they're starting to go to school, it's like, don't ever single people out. Like, you get to school, you know, if there's a kid that's shy in the corner, like, find a way to take them and bring them to the group, do what you can.
So you're instilling your woo in the next generation.
Brings a tear to my eye.
So the woo, the individualism, what else are in your top 5? Do you remember?
I focus on those. I think focus is one of them. Give me a second. So we made a heat map.
With your strengths?
Yeah, with strength finders. So we took our whole team. So we basically take all your skill levels, number which ones your highs and your lows, and then kind of create a heat map of how is our team all balanced out.
Focus, achiever.
Achiever, there you go.
And analytical.
Analytical, yep.
And your woo. So you have your core beliefs about people and you're so good with it.
Yep.
But as you grow and scale and also have multiple locations, the challenge is then replicating that belief system and implementation at scale.
So
how
now
do you do that?
So now we're going to get to, we all need to be actionable and getting our jobs done. But we want to make sure it's transparency. We want to make sure things are relevant. We're making sure individuals understand why we're making decisions. And then also listen, how can they be part of the decision making too as well? In that meeting, you give yourself 10, 15 minutes, they get 10, 15 minutes, and then at the end you kind of create the action items from it. So you get a little time to plug into their brain too as well. And those are the little seeds that you're planting all year long. And hopefully that helps build them into be great leaders in our company eventually.
So these are the one-on-one manager meetings?
Yeah, manager, supervisors. As people grow and they grow into being successful at running a team, we expect them to take that to their next level. But we want them to keep getting that down so then everybody can have a voice all the way down to an employee just starting working for us. So then you get to hear and see, it'll get shared up the chain, but we want to make sure we want to respect each person and who they're responsible for. So those individuals, it's important that they're sharing and what some of their one-on-ones, what's happening, what it is. It'll kind of almost daisy chains right back up to the top again. So as certain concerns, they might get taken care of at this level. If they're not, then within the week, it's taken care of at the next level. And if it's not there, within 2 weeks, it's taken at the next level when it's a bigger organization, or we just have team meetings if it's something that's very important, impactful.
Is part of the goal with that to make everyone, to kind of still make people feel like they're part of a company that cares about them on an individual basis as you grow, scale, and expand into more areas?
We talked about accountability. It's not just accountability. It's opportunity too. It's not just opportunity that you got a job. It's opportunity to make something more of yourself long term. And we're not going to shy away from helping you grow as a person.
You have these systems in place now. It's part of your culture. It's part of what you do. But was there a point in time as you were scaling and growing when you realized you needed that collectively, you needed to professionalize these processes and systems and methods? Like, I bet you had the cow thing dialed in, right? With partners,
the
there's people side.
Each were unique, that they covered a different area and were really good at covering their areas. And now as our business shifted to the next generations, we didn't need the ownership to do it so much, but we needed to start having people within our business, hired people to handle those aspects.
You found your people. And so earlier we were talking about your strengths, right? Like being an achiever and also analytical. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious for you, has it ever been a challenge to allow other people to lead and influence like your team in that way? Because sometimes that little bit of perfectionism that you were talking about, sometimes what it can do, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself here, like sometimes we might have that internal belief or limited belief that we're the only one that can do it. So that's learning how to trust, right?
Yes.
That someone else can do it and do it better, or do it to the level that you would want it done. Has that ever been hard for you?
Oh, very difficult.
Okay. How have you worked through that?
Yeah. And I think that it takes a lot of time on that. And a little bit of that got bled into me from the previous 2 generations too. So from my side of view is, number one, we're not going to put you entirely in a place to fail. So we put you in parameters of what you need to operate, and we won't put more on than we know you can handle. So we'll bring in support staff for certain aspects of what you might not be quite up to speed on. It doesn't mean they're there forever. They're there till we get you to where you feel comfortable again. We have to challenge those individuals. Sometimes just a confidence thing too. They have it, they're not expressing it, and you got to get that confidence in them. And once you get that, then I'm not so stressed about being so analytical about what they're doing, because I know they're going to start doing it themselves. They're going to start being analytical of themselves. So, it's just one, getting the confidence in them. And then once they're confident, they're going to start reviewing things. They're going to start picking things out. They're going to go start challenging their consultant or whoever they're working with on this cow health issue or this production measure that we're trying to fix. And then they'll come back to you and be like, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we're changing. This is what we're going to fix. This is our new goals and new that. It's like, that's my achiever side, is they got to do it themselves. And so it's like they're an extension. They're becoming an extension of me, essentially.
What I see in just understanding so many pieces of how things have unfolded in your career as a dairyman and a businessman too, is you talked about earlier on in your 20s of learning how to make decisions fast and move things forward. And essentially that's what you've carried on to do now: make decisions, move things forward, and use those decisions and experiences to build confidence in, at that time, it was yourself. Now it's building it within your team and every person that touches as it trickles down, as that leadership trickles down. Is that a
very accurate
reflection? It's so cool. Steven, I'm just so grateful for the time to get to sit with you today and hear more about what you guys have been up to. But more importantly, it's what's going on behind the scenes that drives success, and it's leadership and it's people and you're at the heart and the core of that.
Yes.
You're not going to let me say that it's you, because you don't think about you. You think about all of those people that you're building up at the same time, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
So,
what would you like to say to them?
it's a lot, but it's hard to put it in just a couple words, but just thankful. So, yeah, thankful.
Yeah. They're a good group, and they're pretty grateful for you too. They sure are.
Yeah, it's very tough to think about.
Yeah. So, thank you, Steven.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
You just heard from Steven Landwehr here on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode. And until next time, keep on growing, keep on learning, and up-leveling your dairy. This episode is brought to you by Milc Group. Milc Group is a dairy software company that brings real-time actionable data to dairy farms around the world. They are dedicated to revolutionizing the dairy industry with their user-friendly cloud-based software. Now let's hear how Milc Group's One Feed has made managing feed inventories across multiple sites easier and more accurate for Steven and his team.
You have incorporated some technology when it comes to feeding, feed software, scale software.
Yes.
Yeah, and Milc Group's
more as
and
they keep growing.
more.
So,
and Milc Group's been a partner in that growth,
Milc Group's been great. I mean, one is we want data, we want it efficient, and we want to know what it is, that it is really what we're looking at. And, I can take myself when I can see that each of our organizations that are using it, I can see that with my hands right here. And I can be anywhere in the world. And how well is the feeding going at this dairy and that dairy, and then feed load shipments that are coming on the site, like it's recorded now. And what it did, it made my life to understand the changes, that when adjustments happen, whether it's feed ingredients or rations, that now us, our nutritionists, they can do it remotely. Like,
Wow.
just give them access, and it's made our life so much simpler. And then now we take it further. It's like we have our accounting office that does all our work. It's like they all have logins. They can go in. It's like, all right, I got to reconcile this feed, this payment to make sure before we make this payment. There's so much that we can use data, but it's getting access to it quickly, efficiently, and making sure it's very accurate. Timestamp, who entered it, what all happened. So it's really got rid of a lot of errors, but it also made things more timely, and we can make decisions more timely. And for employees, I mean, most of our farms didn't even take them 2 to 6 hours to start a whole new software. If their life could be easy or make it easier, this is a tool that most of our feeders have really accepted.
One by Milc Group is the all-in-one app that brings together all important aspects of your dairy in one place. With products such as feed and animal management software, people training, dairy facility monitoring, and scale management, Milc Group is committed to providing producers with the tools they need to succeed.